ViaGuard Accu-Metrics, science and technology at its best.
Hi, my name is Harvey Tenenbaum, Director of Laboratory Operations for ViaGuard Accu-Metrics. And today we're going to talk about one of the most important areas that our company works in, that is forensic analysis. Now, forensic analysis is a broad term and covers many aspects. But the particular one we'll focus on for today is what's commonly known as drug testing, but more appropriately should be known as substance abuse. Substance abuse is a problem that's become rampant in society over the last decade and probably longer. And the reason for it is the ease of accessibility of young people to drugs, the temptation of the escape, and the psychological lift that some people temporarily receive from drugs, despite the fact that in the long run, there may be, in some cases, considerable damage. Now, why are drug tests done, and what do they consist of? Well, to go back perhaps a decade, drug tests originally consisted of evaluating a urine sample, a blood sample, a saliva sample, and those tests had a role to play, but they were not as clinically precise as we liked. But the important drawback was they only cover a window of use running from perhaps 24 hours to 48 or maximum 72 hours. So that a person undergoing a drug test who didn't want to test positive or show evidence merely stopped taking or using that particular substance a couple of days before the test, and the odds are he would likely test almost clean or pretty close to it. Today, sophisticated technologies have come along that make drug testing clinically precise, meaningful, transparent, and available to the public and agencies that want drug testing done. The primary drug test today is done using hair samples, what a lot of people refer to as a hair follicle test. But in fact, it's not a hair follicle test because follicles are not involved. It tests the shaft of the hair that protrudes from the scalp or bodily hair from any other part of your body. Primarily, we tend to use scalp hair. The reason for the clinical precision of drug tests on scalp hair is that when substances are ingested and metabolized in your body, they of course, ultimately, the substance or its metabolites enter the bloodstream. That bloodstream reaches the follicles, the root portion of hairs, and by a process of diffusion, works its way into the central part of the hair shaft known as the cortex. And it does so in a migratory fashion. So as hair grows, and scalp hair, for example, grows approximately 1/2 inch a month, taking 1.5 inches of scalp hair provides a 90-day record of the level of use of substances during that period. Now, what are the substances we commonly test for? Of course, we test for substances that are widely used and commonly abused, and they include amphetamine and all its derivatives, cocaine and its derivatives, phencyclidine, opiates. There are a lot of opiate derivatives, which include codeine products, OxyContin, heroin. Those are the types of substances we test for. Marijuana is one of the important ones. There are extensive, precise tests for the level of ingested marijuana. The results that are presented show the average level of ingestion of the drug over the 90-day period. And that indicates whether the person has used the drug in a light recreational way, not at all, in a moderate way, or in an increasingly substantive way that indicates strong habituation and probably some level of addiction. These results are important for a lot of reasons. The courts use them in connection with custody cases. Social service agencies use them in custody cases, parental disputes, when one party alleges the other is using a particular substance. Most importantly, they're available to the public. People may want to determine, has my child, my son, daughter, abused substances? I'd like to know. That party they went to on the weekend and go to repeatedly, are they using marijuana? Have they been introduced to cocaine? So there's an incredible transparency that was never available until the last several years with the advent of the technology for analyzing the cortex of the hair shaft. So drug testing has an important clinical role to play in ensuring people's health by deterring the abuse of substances that are now detectable by this simple process. The costs, when hair analysis started, it was thought to be prohibitively expensive, and the costs were deemed to be running $700, $800 or more for a complete scan for a number of drugs. Today, at ViaGuard, with the advanced technology we use and the clinical precision, that complete test is done for $175, and you're given a comprehensive report, and if there's a positive test, we give an interpretation of what we believe that positive result means. Of course, we still do the traditional testing. Some people want urine testing, saliva testing, etc., and we do that for a number of different reasons. But the main emphasis in society today, as adapted by the judicial system and social service industries, has been the hair test, and there, ViaGuard Accu-Metrics is far and away the leader in the field and the laboratory that you should turn to should the situation arise.